it's Nichol Spohr here today for Simon Says Stamp with the December Making the Cut video. This month we are going to be creating some inlay lovebirds with brand new dies and even some stamps from the Simon Says Stamp Love You release that came out here not too long ago. Off camera, I die cut several colors of cardstock with the awesome new Love on a Line dies. These are incredible because it allows you to die cut these letters and the heart from different colors and then line them up whatever way you want and out of any color you want to create really fun backgrounds. So I really love this. I decided to do a white, gray, and red border, and this is going to be created from Hero Arts Cherry Cardstock, Simon Says Stamp Thick White Cardstock, Fog Cardstock, Smoke Cardstock, and Slate Cardstock. And then the rest of this is going to be created with pattern paper. That's going to be the great textured kind of linen-y looking pattern paper on the right side of the card, as well as the inlay. It took me a little bit to come to this conclusion. I tried to do my inlay with cardstock and I just wasn't loving it. I tried adding shading with Copic markers, some of my favorite go-to techniques, and sometimes they just don't work. And lately, the last probably couple months or so, I have been loving my pattern paper again. And so I decided, why not just embrace the fact that I am loving pattern paper and let's try inlaying these lovebirds with that. So that's kind of how I came to the conclusion of how I was going to design this card. It definitely didn't start out that way. And then I do want to mention, if you are using some repositionable tape, I like to use Post-it tape, you can use washi, anything like that. And if it leaves any residue on your cardstock, a Tombow mono eraser is so great because it will just remove that right off. I'm going to lay out my die cut borders. They are not exactly even because I'm going to be doing a landscape A2 size card. I can kind of fix that a little bit later. I'm laying out the lovebirds die, just kind of planning everything out, seeing what I think is going to work. I know I want it sitting on top, but I was kind of just playing around with different placement. So I think what we need to do first is probably trim down our borders. I trimmed each from the edge of the cardstock, not the letter, but that die cut edge about 1 inch. So each strip is about 1 inch. And then I am not measuring, but I'm putting adhesive only on the very left side of the strip and then tucking one under another. So the reason I have the adhesive all the way over to the left is so that when I place that strip underneath, I can slide it underneath easily. You can always go back in with a fine tip glue applicator and lay down those letters a little bit more if you want to. You'll see that here with the letter V once I've attached the lovebirds on the branch. I'm attaching everything on this pattern paper from the Honeybee Stamps. Let's see, this is called the Farm Fresh Holiday. Even though this paper pad says holiday, many of the designs can be used for other things. There's only like a couple of maybe snowflake designs and tree designs, but often the B side of the paper is going to be something really usable. Lots of wood grain, lots of great textures and pattern. I'm a huge fan of pattern papers that can be used beyond maybe just the holiday or occasion that they've been made for. And this gray linen texture is so amazing because I think it looks like actual fabric. Now, when I attach the Love on a Line heart, I did shift it down so it's more closer to the bottom and it lines up more with the letter E. And then I'm going to flip my panel over and just trim away all of that excess. So even just like this, I think that would be a cute card all on its own. It is really, really such a unique idea for dies, and I love this. Maybe just pop on a little sentiment strip if you wanted to, and you could call this good. And definitely you can use any color combination that floats your boat there. So really such a great new die set. The Lovebirds was die cut from some of that nice thick white Simon Says stamp cardstock. I have had this cardstock forever and I'm not exactly sure why I haven't used it for this technique of inlay, because often I will die cut multiple of the outline and stack them one on top of another, and I really don't think it needed it for this particular card. I was really thrilled with the weight of this. So you're going to see I'm going to pop that so it's the branch and the birds are sitting on top of the word love. Before we do that though, let's go ahead and stamp and emboss a sentiment to kind of finish off the greeting of our card. We are going to use a greeting from the Love Greetings Mix 6x8 stamp set. This is also new from the Love You release. I'm going to use a powder tool down there. We're going to stamp our sentiment with a clear embossing ink. I believe I used the Lawn Fawn clear embossing ink here. And then we're going to sprinkle on a little Simon Says stamp white embossing powder and emboss that little phrase right there on the gray background. I decided to go with white as I felt like it just went with the flow and the theme of this love themed card so much better than maybe a black ink would. Then we'll just grab our heat tool and heat set that. And again, at this point, honestly, if going a little more simple is your style, the card could be finished. I love it just as it is. I think it's so beautiful. We're going to put a little adhesive then on the back of the Lovebirds outline and tuck it in place. This is probably the trickiest part, I guess I want to say, since we're using a liquid adhesive, because we don't want to maybe drop it on our card. And I say that because I did drop it and luckily, I don't know, I lucked out completely. It did not fall with the glue side down, because I tried to use tweezers and these tweezers sometimes don't hold things really well, and I dropped it and I was like, oh, but it all worked out okay. We're just going to tuck part of that branch back behind the letter V, and I really like how that turns out. I'm going to put an acrylic block on top to help hold that down and hold it flat while the liquid glue dries and while I die cut my pattern papers for inlay. You'll also notice that down there in the bottom left corner of the screen, we have some little die cut hearts. I actually used the new Mini Hearts Party die to just partially die cut a scrap of the cherry cardstock so that I could use a few extra heart accents on my card that matched the heart from the Love on a Line. I did have to pull out the pink cardstock that I started to inlay. Luckily the glue was still wet, so I was able to pull that out. It was a flat pink. I used the Hero Arts Peony Pink, and while it was beautiful, I wanted something that had more texture to it that I didn't have to add shading to. And pattern paper is going to be fantastic for this. So this pink, which I don't think it translates great on screen, but in real life you can kind of see the variation in it. It's from the Lawn Fawn Watercolor Wishes pattern paper pad. So it definitely has a watercolor feel to it, which gives it instant texture. Then for the bellies of the Lovebirds, that is going to be a pattern paper from Farm Fresh Holiday. So we're going back to that Farm Fresh Holiday. A lot of the paper is from this today. The branch is from the Kaisercraft Emerald Eve, which again is another Christmas pattern paper pad. I actually just looked for a pattern paper pad that had a wood grain in it, and I loved the wood grain in this one, so it works great for the branch. This gives it instant texture without me actually having to ink, color, or do anything to add that branch texture. Now, I thought that green leaves would not really work for this card. I just felt like I really wanted to stick with the pinks and the reds and the grays. And so we're actually going to use a sparkle, I'm using air quotes, pattern paper for the leaves from the Honeybee Stamps Farm Fresh Holiday. I absolutely love their sparkle looking paper. If you are not a fan of real glitter or glitter cardstock, because sometimes it can flake off or whatever, the sparkle look-alike pattern paper from Honeybee Stamps is some of my very favorite. I used it for some Christmas inlay cards, and it is just phenomenal. I absolutely love it and highly, highly recommend it. So the birds are mostly pink, and then this little white with gray speckle just goes so nice with the whole theme. And I wanted to give the wing on the One Love bird a little bit more color and texture. So instead of pink, we're actually going to use Lawn Fawn Let It Shine pattern paper, and it's red with a little gold polka dot in it. And the polka dot's pretty neutral. You don't see a ton of it, but I ended up loving this little red polka dot paper so much that we're going to use it for an envelope liner that matches our card. Then also, so the sparkle that I was talking about that I haven't actually placed in the leaves yet, but it is on the back or the front, whatever you want to call it, of another pattern that is a dark gray. What I ended up doing was just doing a partial die cut for the bird's beaks, and then I can inlay the dark gray beaks, and then I can use the sparkle design on the back by just die cutting, again, another partial die cut. I just line it up with the edge to just catch the leaves and not really die cut the whole thing. And I can inlay then some little silver sparkly leaves. But I really like the dark gray for the beaks. I could have also used the dark gray cardstock, that slate gray Simon Says Stamp cardstock if I wanted to as well. And a little pair of tweezers, a jewel picker, a crystal katana, embellishment wand, any of those kind of tools are going to be so helpful if you like doing inlay with little parts and pieces. We're going to grab up those inlay pieces for the wing from that Lawn Fawn Let It Shine pattern paper. And I like how it just pulls a little bit of red into the bird and adds a little bit more interest. Some of these pieces are so super tiny, so it's really kind of a blessing if when they die cut, they kind of stick in the outline. They do die cut all the way through, they just kind of stick in place, and so you can lay that die cut over the top and kind of push those little parts and pieces into the inlay. I'm going to take one of those extra hearts now from the Mini Hearts Party die that we die cut. We have one down there next to the Love on a Line, and we're going to put one on the chest of a lovebird. I like how that again pulls in a little bit of red into the birds. And here is that sparkle looking paper that I was talking about for the leaves. So one side of it was the dark gray, and then this is the sparkle design, which it really does look like glitter. I love it. And I like this for the leaves, even though the branch is brown, which was basically pulling in another color to this card, it's not pulling in a color that really clashes with the design. I felt like green was really going to clash with this background, and I'm glad that I did something kind of in the grays, as it's just so much more muted and soft and pretty. And I've purposely not attached the top of the letter V yet because I want to inlay these leaves first. Once they are inlaid, I can put a little dab of glue back behind that and secure that so I don't have to worry about it maybe getting caught on the envelope, like when you're putting it in the envelope to send out, or the recipient pulls it out and maybe it catches. Just all these little leaf pieces. There's even 2 teeny tiny leaf pieces. You probably could leave them if you wanted to. I did go ahead and pop them out, but they are so super tiny. So now we just have a few teeny tiny finishing touches to complete the card. Again, it really could be finished at this point. I am going to take a little glossy accents to the hearts. So those 2 small die cut hearts, I think glossy accents will be a nice finishing touch. I'm also going to add glossy accents to the beaks of the lovebirds so that they are glossy as well. Just little tiny touches that really finish it off nicely. And then I'm going to take some of these Trinity Stamps boiled sugar mix jelly drops. They are some of my very favorite. They're little clear droplets, and we're going to scatter those too to finish off the card. Again, I didn't want to pull in any extra colors, not even another shade of red or pink. I like the clear as it just adds a little texture without really adding any color. We'll even add one to the center of the heart on the Love on a Line. And then for a finishing touch for this card, first of all, we need to take this panel and place it on a white side fold card base. So maybe you want to wait and do that when the glossy accents has dried, or if you like to live dangerously like I do, go ahead and do that right away. And then, as I mentioned earlier, when I was doing the wing for the lovebird with that Lawn Fawn Let It Shine paper, I had a little scrap of it left, and I thought, wouldn't it make a pretty envelope liner that would coordinate so pretty with the card? So I love a pretty envelope liner that when you pull out the card, or when you open the card and it's got this beautiful liner inside, which is kind of just a surprise. It's just a small little touch that really adds a lot. So I used the Simon Says Stamp envelope liner die. I'm going to tuck it down into this slate gray envelope from Simon Says Stamp. And then I'm going to just fold the top part over and put adhesive on that, and then fold the flap of the envelope over to catch it. So I don't actually put adhesive on the part that tucks down in the envelope. I found that works best when I assemble these or use an envelope liner. Thank you guys so much for joining me today for this Inlay Lovebirds card featuring Simon Says Stamp dies. Please be sure to visit the Simon Says Stamp blog for more information. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.